So after episode, we have watched this robot go from the factory it was built all the way to Utopia, and then all the way back to Waterwood. Weeks upon weeks of travel. And once it finally arrives in Waterwood, what does it do? Parody the Iron Giant. uh, yeah. Okay, how's everyone doing today, guys? My name is C Codes, and this is Amphibia episode 35B, Friend or Frobo. Not at all what I was expecting this robot to be. Oh my god. And yet at the same time, it's like, you can see it, but it was like, what? So, okay, so yeah, this episode was very interesting for me because, again, they built of this robot, like, pretty much, they built up this robot, in my opinion, a lot because, obviously, we had the end of Fort in the Road where we saw the robot emerge from the factory. And then after that we saw episodes where it was still following the family, and then we had that ending with the night driver and of Night Drivers where the robot was overlooking Wartwood, and it's like it really left a lot of questions. It's like, what is it gonna do? What's it gonna be? So for me, I figured it was gonna play some importance. I just didn't know what, and I was wondering if it was. I mean, I don't know. I guess I thought it was just gonna arrive finally, and they were gonna freak out of what exactly it was, and they didn't know what to do. But then the family would figure out it's something else, or I don't know. It's so the way they stumble upon it in this episode was really weird, but at the same time, I understand because of. Okay, so let's talk about this episode. So it all starts with Marcy, the family going into town, and Marcy and Hop Hop are getting along in this one. They're talking, like, Hop Hop is taking him to a seed shop, and Marcy, obviously being the nerd, or not the, well, I don't know, not a nerd. I'm not calling, don't call her a nerd. Basically, being the intellect of the group, she is very intrigued with all the different types of seeds and what they're capable of, and so obviously she and Hop Hop get along just fine, and so they spend the entire episode in the shop while Anne and Sprig have to look after Polly, and they're just playing this fighting game on Anne's phone. It's kind of basically robots battling each other, which is okay. And there's even a voice actor joke, like Anne's like, yeah, it's been interesting. And it's like, some of you guys don't even sound similar anymore. It's like, and that's kind of a jab at Sprig because, the voice actor who plays Sprig is a kid, so it makes sense that as the kid gets older, his voice is gonna sound a little bit deeper and different. That's kind of what happened with Gus in, the Owl House episodes, especially in the later episodes. You can, Agony of a Witch is definitely the one where I really noticed it because it's kind of hard not to notice it. And so, like, if you guys have seen the Owl House and you've seen Agony of a Witch, like, you put that episode on and then compare it to, like, I Was Once a Teammate, the third episode of the series where Gus is first introduced, like, pretty big difference. But yeah, so they made that joke about Sprig's voice, and basically they don't want Paula to leave the car because even though she's done a lot of crazy things, she's a kid, a tadpole, and she is also kind of too small to do anything. Like, even when she tricks Sprig and Anne to basically not pay attention to her, she still isn't able to do everything she wants. Like, she wants to do a gigantic cannonball in the fountain, and it turns out it's just like a little. She tries to steal a pie off a window, which was. I mean, I'm like, what is that? I'm like, really, pie off a window? We're going that old school. of course, she can't even do it. Like, she's too small, so she feels hopeless. She feels like again, she feels like she feels like she can be responsible, that she can take care of someone if she could. And lo and behold, she then stumbles upon the giant robot, which was hiding under a pile of trash. I don't know why. Again, it's rather random that she stumbles upon this thing. Like, I mean, once the pile started moving, I'm like, oh, it's the robot. But I mean, again, it's like, what was it doing? Like, what? So, but luckily, the robot comes out. Polly gets scared at first, but then she quickly realizes that it's kind of like it doesn't really, it itself doesn't know what it is, or in other words, doesn't really know what to do. Like, so Paul, like, it's walking towards Polly, and Polly tells it to stop, and it stops. So it's basically takes commands from anyone, and so Polly sees that as kind of like being, oh, he's just like he's a big dummy, or a baby kind of thing. And so she gets an idea to take care of it. Basically, again, we're going full Iron Giant parody here with that. But where isn't that when you knew what it was programmed for and it lost its memory? This one, I mean, it's created, and I guess it just, the program, I mean, it's obviously built for something, we just don't know what. And I doubt when it was made, it doesn't, so I don't even know if there's anything in the memory of the robot that tells it what it's programmed to do, other than basically what it has in front of them. And that's Polly, and Polly calls it Frobo, because, I mean, because she sees it and it looks like a robot from Anne's fighting game, and so but it obviously looks like a frog as well, so she calls it Frobo. And of course, they do basically all the stuff that Polly tried to do earlier, like steal a pile off a window. Didn't go well because Frobo has, God, this is an interesting robot, because he he can seemingly do anything. He could, his arms are he can extend his arms. He can shoot lasers. He can breathe fire. I think he can even make a garden. Like, that's how like, I love at the end of the episode when when Hop Hop isn't sure about Frobo, all of a sudden Frobo turns into like a garden dude, and just like he literally like creates crops and like that. It's so weird. And then, like I said, in the last episode, I made it to the penultimate, so like there's a lot of crazy things that Frobo can do in this series that's pretty freaking nuts, and I'm like, who programmed this? But for this episode, it's just Polly having fun with them, and they eventually get to the point where they go to the water fountain. And this was my original theory of this robot, was that it wasn't good with water, because, again, I thought when it was outside in Utopia, it didn't even attempt to go inside, so I thought it had something to do with it being in the water, but that was completely debunked here, because Frobo doesn't hesitate to cause a gigantic cannonball in the fountain. And I question how deep the fountain is, because once he lands, there's just this tsunami of a splash that comes out of it. Of course, destroys the town. And I kind of feel bad for the town, because this is like the third episode in the last handful of, let's see. I mean, town was destroyed by Marcy in the last one. Let's see. I don't know. Okay. Return to Wartwood, they had that catastrophe with Chickless. I think the next episode, or no, not the next episode. There's another episode where the town gets a beating again, but it's crazy. So, but yeah, obviously with robot destroying town by accident, town automatically thinks it's dangerous, so we do that shtick where the town is against the robot, but Polly tries to defend it, but obviously the townspeople don't listen to her, they try to attack it. Then eventually it even leads to Polly getting hurt, and Frobo sees that, And obviously, because Polly was taking care of him, Frobo gets angry and starts attacking the town, and so even Sprig and Anne try to get in, like try to fight it, and they obviously it doesn't go well, and Polly eventually has to really step up and convince, like she steps in and convinces the town and everyone else that Frobo's not bad. He's good. The only reason why he was doing that was because he was protecting me and this is all my fault because I told him to jump into the fountain. I told him to steal the pie from the window. Basically, she takes responsibility, and that's kind of and obviously that's kind of the lesson of the episode is like because we all at a point wonder if we're ready for something, and sometimes we may not be, sometimes we may be, and just because we're not ready for something doesn't mean we will never. Doesn't mean we never will, or it's a bad thing. It's just it takes time, and in other cases it's you have to understand the thing you have to handle, and in Polly's case, she realizes that taking care of someone is harder than is way harder because you don't always know what's gonna happen. And so eventually she does, she convinces the town that it's not Frobo's fault, it was her fault, and that she'll do whatever it takes to fix all the damages. And I'm like, at this rate, I feel like everyone in the town is eventually gonna destroy itself. It's like, come on. But yeah, so Frobo and by the way, Hop Hop and Marcy come out of the seed store, sorry. Hop Hop obviously is freaking the heck out of trying to figure out what it is, and Marcy is like, oh wow, is that a robot? And I also love Hop Hop, like, wait, what's a robot? It's like, yeah, it's a long story. And even Sprig and Anne try to are trying to put the pieces together, thinking if it maybe it came from the factory, but they kind of brush it off because they're like, no way, that thing wouldn't possibly follow us all the way back here, right? And it's like, well, the way they say it too is like, followed us back here. I'm like, well, technically it followed you to Newtopia first, then it follows you back. So I'm like, but that kind of does beg the question, why did it do that? That was the real big question that left me unanswered. Unless it saw them and it was, intrigued by them, and because, that was the first thing it did see when it emerged from the rubble, so, if it saw them and it was attracted to them, and that's why it followed them, that would make sense. But there were moments in the episode, well, actually, maybe, again, this thing could do a lot, so maybe it was able to track them easily, and that it's the fact that it was walking, because this episode clearly shows that it can do more than just walk. And, yeah, this thing is pretty, it's cool, and it can even talk, too, it says, it only says 2 words in this episode. It says Polly and sorry, obviously, because, cares about Polly, and Polly asked to apologize to the town, and it said sorry, so interesting. I hope it does. I'm excited to see what else it can do after everything that's happened. I'm saying, again, I'm already at the penultimate, I'm past the penultimate, waiting for, like everyone else, for the season finale, and given by the promo that I saw, this thing is gonna go off. And yeah, I wonder how Newtopia is gonna react to that thing, because they haven't seen it. I don't think they would have seen anything like that, or maybe at least not. Andreas. Who knows what he'll think? I'm thinking way too far ahead. This episode's really fun. A part of me was a little bit disappointed that it was just a robot and that was just that didn't really have that much behind it, other than the fact that it was built at the factory and it was just, now it's part of the team. Because again, it's like you built it up to be a mystery, because, from Fort in the Road, the second episode of the season, this thing's been following them, so I guess I just felt, I guess I just had too much, I guess I was just expecting too much out of it, because, I mean, again, I mean, when it comes to a mystery, when it comes to this world, the mysteries really do have a lot. I mean, maybe, I mean, I won't be surprised if they reveal something about this Frobo later on. I was just wondering why, like, it was a little bit underwhelming at first. I mean, but again, don't get me wrong, I really like this. I like Frobo part of the team, because again, he can do a lot, and he's kind of comedic. Like, he does have a few comedic moments, even though he can't really talk. It's just the way that he moves, the way he looks, the way he reacts to things. Like, it's pretty interesting how this machine functions, and I like it. I thought it was cool. So, not to mention, it's Polly's. Technically, Polly has a robot. It's like, that's the coolest thing of the gang right now, and it fits Polly so well, because, you know, knowing Polly's character, you know how crazy she can get, so it makes sense that she has a giant robot with her now. That would be the weird, it's like, if you like, somewhere in the middle of season 1 and you said that, like, yeah, 50-50 on that, but now it's like, yeah, she's got a robot with her now. Oh, man, so... Alright, so yeah, that's all I got for this one. So that was episode 35, me, friend, or Frobo. Hope you guys enjoyed that. If you liked it, leave a like. If you want to leave a comment, leave a comment. If you want to subscribe, you don't have to. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you in the next one.